because I work at a university, and I'm like the first person in my family who went to college, and I got a doctorate, and I usually think of myself as a pretty smart person who's had a lot of opportunities. And part of my job this past year, took me to South Africa, and a friend of mine said, we got to go meet Marlon Parker while you're here. He's doing some incubator stuff, and he's this great guy. You're going to love him, and who knows, maybe you're such a genius about entrepreneurship, maybe you can help him. He didn't really say that, but that was kind of the idea. And so when I met Marlon and I sat down with some of the people he is mentoring and the team there and these amazing companies that they're starting and selling, I just kind of closed my notebook mentally and said, I'm not here to give, I'm here to receive. And it was one of those spiritually alive moments when I just knew God had given me a chance to come across a very special person. And so I turned to Marlon and I said, listen, America's this booming economy. South Africa is supposedly emerging economy, but I think we need your help. We need to be able to do there what you're doing here. And would you please come? And to my delight, and a little bit to my surprise, he said, absolutely. And so I know you're going to be thrilled and inspired about what's happening there, but I want you all to be thinking about how can I make these kind of miracles happen here? Because we live in a town that needs an economic miracle as well. 25% of our neighbors don't have enough. And that's not a good thing. So open your hearts, your ears, and your minds, and bring a warm welcome for Marlon Parker.
Wow. After seeing this school, I want to go back to school. Seriously, this is the most beautiful school I've ever seen. Like, you don't understand. I've never, you can ask Greg, when I came in here, I was like, my mind was blown. And it takes a lot to blow my mind. I literally just came back from Yale, and Yale has got nothing on you guys. Now, I do have a very funny accent, so if you don't understand me, you have the liberty to raise your hand and just say, can you just explain that again? Because I come from a place, how many of you have ever heard of Cape Town? Okay, good. You all know what Cape Town is known for? No. Cape Town is known for beautiful people. I thought you would get that, but okay. We'll get there. But however, so Cape Town is known for its beautiful beaches. We've got this beautiful mountain, a lot of beautiful natural things that's around in Cape Town. However, I grew up in a place called the Cape Flats. Have any of you ever heard of the Cape Flats before? No? No? Okay. Now, the Cape Flats is not because there's high-rising flats, it's because the actual area is very flat. That's why they call it the Cape Flats. I don't know who came up with that name. Very, very intelligent, clearly. And that is where I grew up. And just before I introduce you a little bit about the work that I do, I want to show you a video clip of two people that I love dearly, two people that I work with very closely on a day-to-day basis, that will give you a bit of the context of where I work and where my heart lies. At the same time, there's going to be a third person in the video, which looks like me, right? It's actually me. And you can listen to me if you want to, but you don't really have to in the video, because I'll most probably say some of the things again afterwards. But just permit me to quickly show you this video clip, and then I will take it from there.
is Suzanne Smith, and this is basically my house where I live. In this house, we used to sell drugs. We used to keep a lot of people's guns in this house. We were part of the American gangs because we sold drugs for them, and this is where my life was dark, in the darkness, because I used to run around with the gangs with the guns. We used to go to court even with the guns, and I have 2 children, 2 boys. I come out of an abusive relationship with my boyfriend that forced me into using drugs. I couldn't go to school. As I was on my way to school, people used to follow us. They used to shoot at us on my way to school, and we used to stay in the house for like weeks or months because we couldn't go out. If we went out, people would like shoot on us because we were part of a gang, and we lived here as a family with the gangs in this house of us. This people used to come here, they used to sleep here, the gangs, and everything was just happening here in this small shack of us. And that is where I thought my life was going to end at that time.
Hi, my name is Angelo. As a young child, I was molested by an older family member, and this led to sexual and gender confusion. But what made things worse was that I never had a relationship with my father, and in my teen years, my parents got divorced, and that shattered my world. I became very rebellious. I dropped out of school and I ran away from home. I ended up on the streets of Cape Town prostituting and impersonating the lifestyle of a woman. These are the streets that I used to roam at night in search for drugs, alcohol, and just prostituting. I needed something to take the pain away, and the drugs and the alcohol at the time seemed to do the best job. This lifestyle I lived for quite a while, and because I didn't have much of an education and had literacy problems, I couldn't find work easily, and I just continued living this lifestyle for quite a while. I then eventually ended up in hospital, almost dead, because my body couldn't handle the chemicals of the drugs I was using anymore.
In a world where change is not always inevitable, a world where hope seems to have been lost, a world where poverty has a monopoly, the one thing that we know that can transform this world is when people start having hope. And that's exactly what Art Labs is about. It's a movement of hope, it's a movement by people, for people. It's a movement of learning, of empowering, and it's a social revolution. The journey of Art Labs is all about seeing the transformation in the life of one person, knowing that their story potentially can transform not just their life, but at the same time can actually leave a legacy in their communities. We believe at Art Labs that education is so vital and important that it's a tool that can really begin to transform our communities. And therefore, we've committed ourselves to investing in education, investing in people, because we believe that it's through that investment that we'll see hope beginning to rise in the lives of individuals.
When I used to be at home, I used to talk about guns and smoking and stuff. Nowadays, when I come home from work, from Art Labs, all I talk to them about is technology. I became a co-facilitator at Art Labs, and that's where everything's changed for me. And I asked myself, how can these people ask me to be a co-facilitator? Are they crazy? And Monique and Rene still told me, Suzanne, we believe in you that you can do it. I'm facilitating over 50 people, and I'm just loving it. And I also do the admin of Art Labs, and being in the space has changed my life a lot. And I've recently also wrote my matric exams. I see life differently now. I don't look at my circumstances anymore. Even though I live in a shack, I know that in 2 years' time, I will be a businesswoman and I will have my own business. And that will be all thanks to Art Labs for what they have done and implanted in me.
Art Labs really gave me hope and the opportunity to educate myself. I started educating myself. I also completed my matric, and I'm currently the academy manager at Art Labs. Art Labs is really a place of hope. And I think if Art Labs could have done it for me, how much more can't they do it for people out there that are hopeless and that are feeling hurt and that are feeling pain and that wants to change their life around.
At Art Labs, we believe there should be no barriers to learning, no barriers to education. And that is what this revolution is all about. It is about the removal of barriers. It's about hope transcending these barriers and having each and every person being able to have access to education. So why don't you join this revolution, this movement of change, this movement of hope, this movement where we can see our communities being transformed.
And it's very interesting, just the quick story of Suzanne and Angelo, because that gives you a good sense of kind of the environment that we live in, especially on the Cape Flats. Suzanne, this video is about 2 years old, and she actually eventually went on to start a business. She runs a little tech company that supports 10,000 informal traders in a community, allowing them to be able to trade, very much for those who are familiar with eBay. Think of it as kind of eBay for the poor. And she also went back to complete school as well. Angelo, now he started living on the streets at the age of 13, and then he started prostituting himself because to maintain his drug habit. It was that extreme for him. He eventually, I remember meeting him, he was on his deathbed, broken, completely shattered. Meeting him, and he really just kind of started wanting to make a difference in his life. He had literacy problems. Eventually, he went back to complete school. Today, as you heard, he runs our academy, and I'll explain a little bit more about our academy further. And then also, he's also currently studying at the university, doing social sciences. And 5 years ago, he was on the streets of Cape Town, prostituting himself. And for us, it was really about how do we begin to bring about transformation in the lives of people that need it the most. And I'm sure all of us in this room most probably would have heard or know of someone that is in need. I'm sure we don't have to go far to see someone in need. And that is really the journey that I've been on. And I'm just going to quickly bring up this presentation for you. Hopefully it will work. And my story was very similar to Angelo and Suzanne's story. For me, to give you an example, I was born to a teenage girl, right? Her mom was a teenage girl when she gave birth to me. She was in love. I was going to ask the question to you, but you shouldn't raise your hand. How many of you have ever been in love? Don't raise your hand, okay? Maybe you want to nod internally, okay? And so she was in love. You know, she met this guy. She thought that her world revolves around this guy, and she was the youngest of 4 children. And what happened was none of his other brothers or sisters actually completed school, and there she was. Everybody was putting their aspirations and their dreams on her. She was going to be the first one to have completed school. She was going to be the one that was going to change everything for the family. And there she fell pregnant. And at that time, she had to make a very, very difficult decision. She had to decide, does she keep this child or does she lose this child? So the love of her life told her, if you want to keep me, you have to lose the baby. If you're going to keep the baby, then you're going to lose me. And fortunately for me, she decided to keep the baby. I'm very happy she decided to keep the baby. I don't know about you, but I'm very happy. I always tell her, oh, I'm so happy that you kept the baby. And the first thing that I want you to please learn about this lesson is she risked everything because she believed that she saw potential. Now remember, she didn't know what was coming. She saw potential. And that is something that I want each and every one of you to always remember. It doesn't matter how dark times might be or how difficult circumstances might be. Always rise above that and see potential. And the problem was, it was also a complicated pregnancy as well. So the pregnancy was difficult. The doctors told her they think she should rather abort this baby because the child is going to have learning disabilities. And they gave a whole lot of other reasons why they believe she should just not have this child. So she gave up her schooling career at the time. And there I was. I was actually born prematurely, so I was 6.5 months when I came out because I didn't want to risk it just in case she changes her mind. So at 6.5 months, I decided I'm not going to wait for 9 months. I'm coming out, and I kicked my way out, screaming. No, for real, the doctor told me I was screaming. And I believed the doctor. So there I was, 6.5 months, with all the odds against me as a baby, and all the odds against this young girl. Sometimes the odds are not there to destroy you, it's actually there to define you. That's what, and when you go through difficult times, always remember that. It's not there to kind of break you down. Sometimes it's purely there to define you for who the person that you're going to become. And that is how my life started. So I grew up on the Cape Flats, born to a single parent, and no father. He never came to come and see what I was about. And eventually my mom met another guy. She fell in love again. I then had two younger brothers and a younger sister, a baby sister. And then what he did, when my sister was born, he decided he's going to leave. And again, as a young man, having to be the father in the house, I saw my mother's heart being broken. And for me, it was very difficult. And at the time, for me, I was at high school at that time. And I couldn't believe that I had to go through the same thing all over again. And during this time, and for me, growing up, not having a father was a very difficult thing. But as time went on, eventually what happened, my younger brother decided to join a gang. Now, for those of you who don't know, the most notorious gang in South Africa is called the Americans. No, for real, it's like the Americans. That's the name of the gang. These guys and girls, they pledge allegiance to the flag. For real, like their headquarters is called the White House. When you have a chance, just go and Google the American gang, Cape Town or South Africa. You'll see these guys are phenomenal. Like, I don't know, like none of them have any passports, but yet they are Americans, right? They've got no green cards, but they call themselves Americans. And for them, so my brother joined the gang at the time, and it was very difficult because it meant that our family was affected by it. And sometimes early hours of the morning, and he started using drugs, he started dealing in drugs. So early hours of the morning, we would find people coming, breaking down our door, having us at gunpoint because of something my younger brother did. And eventually that kind of broke the family as well. So with all of these things, I stayed at school because for me, school was an escape. Now my school wasn't as beautiful as this school. If it was as beautiful as this school, I would have lived there. I would just probably open up the doors in the morning and I won't lock it up because I'll be there all the time anyway. It's like the best school ever. I'm going to tell you that all the time, all right? But for me, school was an escape. It was the one place, even though I didn't know what it was going to do for me because none of my family have ever completed school, right? So for me, it was a big deal. And there I was, I completed school, but I had to go and help to get some money for the family. So the only job I could find was to push you know what a shopping cart, trolley. You know when you go shopping, you normally have this. So I had a job where I would push these trolleys and people would give me tips. And then that is how I made money because I had to help the family. And I was doing that for about 2 years. And during that time, my brother eventually went to prison. And of course, I had to constantly try and help the family, help raise the younger siblings. But then I had a dream. And the one dream I had was I always wanted to have a job where I can wear a shirt and a tie. Because I thought if people see me wearing a shirt and a tie, that must probably, people would think, wow, Marlon has arrived. You know? Because no one in my community has ever gone to work wearing a shirt and a tie. So there, I eventually there was a job opening. Now this is after 2 years of pushing trolleys or shopping carts, whatever you want to call it. I heard there's a job opening to do some filing in an admin office. So I applied because I knew the lady. You know it's important if you know people, it helps, right? Does it help? Not really. Not in the US, apparently. Okay, but in South Africa, if you know people, it does help. So she did the interview. I was shortlisted. It was myself and another person. And then I heard that, so for me it was very exciting because finally a dream was going to be realized. Because I was going to work in an office doing filing. It was like a dream come true for me. So I went to go buy myself a white shirt and the brightest red tie that I could find. Because I knew that when I walk across the field, everybody had to see me walking over the field wearing with my shirt and my tie. I also bought myself a little briefcase. I couldn't afford leather, so there's something called leatherette. It basically means that you're not allowed to walk with it in the sun or when it rains or else it melts. So that was the briefcase I had because I couldn't afford a leather bag. And I practiced the night before. They were going to tell me if I got the job or not. I even practiced. I was very excited. Man, that was like the best thing ever. And I could imagine seeing in South Africa, or at least in where I grew up, everybody is your aunt and everybody is your uncle. Right? Doesn't matter if they're not family. And I could imagine and seeing all my neighbors waving. And lo and behold, I heard that I never got the job. Man, I was gutted. I can't believe that I knew this lady, I was shortlisted, and I never got this job. But I made a promise to myself. I said that if I don't get this job, then I'm going to go and study. I'm going to study something. I didn't quite know what I was going to study, but I knew that I wanted to do something. So when I heard the news, I resigned. I told the boss, I said, listen, I'm finished. I'm not going to push trolleys anymore. I'm going to go and study. I'll never forget his words. He told me, Marlon, are you stupid? Like, you've been pushing trolleys for 2 years. What are you going to study? You're not going to mount up to anything, all right? But I believed. I said, you know what? I'm going to do something. And I've managed to save up $50 in 2 years, which was enough for me to pay an admin fee, enough for school fees. And the first person that I walked into, I'm always thankful for this lady. She was a waitress at a restaurant. And I remember walking, and she asked me, what am I going to do? And then I told her, no, I'm going to go and study. And then she said, Marlon, if you're going to study, you must go and do it. And I'm like, I must do it. I'm like, okay. Now, what is it? And she said, no. It is information technology. And then I said, okay, what is information technology? So I asked her, what is this information technology? And then she told me she's got no clue, but the people that was at the table that she was serving was talking about it all the time. That was it this and it that. So it has to be important. So I'm listening to her. I'm like, okay. And she said, no, but you must go and do it. I mean, Nike would have been very happy. And I just did it. I went, this was before Google was around. I found a place that were offering it. And at the same time, just to give you some insight, I've never seen a computer in my life. So I'm going to go and study information technology. I've never seen a computer in my life. I get to this university that apparently accepted me because they believe I have logic, right? That they didn't talk about computers. They just wanted to know if you had logic and mathematical ability, which according to them I had. And then when I had to select my major, I saw something that I'm very familiar with. Now, I used to do a lot of work in the community where I would work with young people. So we would do youth programs. And there was a major called programming. So I'm like, oh my word, I'm good at programming. I do youth programs all the time. So I decided that my major is going to be programming. And they wanted to know, do I know any languages? And I said, yes, I know 2 languages because I can speak English and Afrikaans. I didn't know they were referring to programming languages. So they even put me in an advanced class, right? So I want you to imagine my first day walking into this thing called a computer lab. Now, I've never seen a computer in my life. I see this thing that looks like portable television, small televisions. And there was this funny looking remote that had the alphabet on it, which was the keyboard. My mind was completely like, oh my word, what has happened? And that was my introduction to technology. Of course, the world has changed since then. How many of you have mobile phones? Can you just raise your hand? How many of you have a mobile phone? Okay, how many of you have 2 mobile phones? Okay, there's some hands going up. Okay, nobody has 3 mobile phones. Come on. That's now being, oh my word. There's a hand. Oh no. Okay, how many of you are on Facebook? Let's see, how many of you are on Facebook? Raise your hand. You don't have to be ashamed. It's okay. Are any of you on Twitter? Okay, there's some people on Twitter. Now you all know that Twitter is the only place where you can legally stalk people, right? You all know that. It's the only place where you can legally follow people and be a stalker. It's weird how the world has changed with regards to technology. Back then, if someone follows you, you would turn around and say, hey, why are you following me? Nowadays, you tell the person, hey, follow me. Right? I'm telling you, I can't keep up with the society today. And so the same with Facebook. I mean, how often do you walk down the street and you meet someone that you don't know and you say, hi, my name is Marlon Parker. My relationship is very complicated. Don't you want to be my friend? Right? And then the person will add you as a friend. So with the advancements of technology, for me personally, that became a huge thing. As I went through university, it wasn't easy. I failed miserably my first semester. I was only good at one thing called statistics. And I couldn't tell my mother that I was failing because she was telling the entire neighborhood, oh, my son is going to university and is doing this thing called computers. Not knowing that her son has got no clue about computers, so the entire neighborhood would come and bring old computers to me, want me to fix it. And I seriously didn't know what to do. The only thing I remember was I could pick up some buzzwords like RAM, memory, and hard drive. So I would tell people, no man, you're running out of memory. You know? You must upgrade. Or I would tell them, your RAM is a hard drive today. You must upgrade. No, it doesn't mean anything. So with that limited knowledge, I managed to kind of get myself through university. And the best thing that happened to me at university was I broke my ankle while playing soccer. Because I wasn't going to classes anymore. But of course, I mean, you all go to classes all the time. Because you are good and amazing young people. Right? Come on, there should have been an applause. Yeah, there we go. And because I couldn't tell my mother that her son, because now she has basically planted her dream on me. And I couldn't tell her that I was busy failing. And eventually when I broke my ankle, it meant that I couldn't play soccer anymore. So I ended up going to the library and I started reading about why programming. And eventually things turned around for me. So much so that before I completed my undergrad, in my 3rd year of study at university, they actually offered me to become a junior lecturer in programming, which was weird. Because like 3 years ago, I have no clue what programming was. And now they actually gave me I could become a lecturer. So I started at a very early age my life as an academic. So I went on to complete my degree, I went on to do my master's, and things were going very well, right? And when I started doing my PhD, some people would say PhD means pass high school with difficulty. I hope there's no PhDs sitting here. I mean, you all should pass very well. And it was during that time, because I mean, my mom still lived in the same house. It's the same community where I grew up in. And as I went back, I then realized something. It was this one day where there was a little boy, he was 8 years old, that was walking down the road, and he was supposed to be in school. And when I saw him, I asked him, why are you not at school? And he told me that he is looking for a job. He's 8 years old. He's looking for a job. Now, when I looked into this boy's eyes, I saw that this boy has lost hope. And I asked him, why are you looking for a job? He says, no, he's looking for a job because he wants to buy him shoes and he wants to buy bread for his 5-year-old sister. But he's 8 years old. So I asked him, now, where's your parents? He said, no, his dad is in prison and his mom is high on crystal meth. So his mom is just kind of laying at home, so he, at the age of 8, is now believing that he has to do something. And it was at that time when my heart broke, because I realized that even though things were going well with me at the time, the community where I come from, people were hurting. People were suffering. The same place where I used to play, the field that I used to play in, is now the area where all the gangs are controlling. And just there and then I realized that yes, even though I've got a great career, even though things are going well, I still had a responsibility to the place where I come from. And sometimes it's important for us to realize that it doesn't matter how small the act might be. That small act can change someone's world completely. It's very difficult to change the world, but you are able to change one person's world. And that is something that you need to learn at a very, very early stage. And it was then that I realized that people don't remember people that have great careers. They actually remember people who are willing to leave a legacy. A legacy is where it's not about me, but it's also about the people around me. And that became a huge turning point in my life. So there I was at the university, I was doing well, but now I felt compelled that I had to do something for my community, the place where I come from. And it was during that time where this journey of Art Labs began. It was that moment with that 8-year-old boy where I decided that I wanted to at least help one person in my community. And the one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted them to understand that hope is possible. It is possible for them to have hope. Now, when I think of hope, hope means having a certainty in today and having an expectation in tomorrow. That is what hope was for me. And I wanted to make sure that young people in my community could have an expectation. That it doesn't matter how bad your circumstances might be, there's always hope. Because that's the other lesson I've learned. That your circumstances should never determine your destiny. Because if my circumstances would not have allowed me to be here. If anybody told me that I would be in Waco, in Baylor, okay, first I wouldn't have known where Waco is in Texas. The only thing I knew about Texas, we used to watch a program called Dallas. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But that was like a big hit in Cape Town. Everybody watched it. Wanted to see JR. But for me, the big thing was that here was an opportunity to actually do something in my community. So I'm going to take you through what Art Labs is all about. And I just wanted to give you the background to make you realize that I am not qualified to do this. Nothing in my past, nothing in my family situation, not even my skill sets have qualified me to do the work that I do. The only thing that allowed me to do this was because I believed that I needed to make a difference in one life. And that is how Art Lab started. It started by making a difference in one person's life first. So the idea was, how do I bring about change in one person? And it was very simple. All I did at the time, I helped one guy to start learning technology, because technology was the only thing I knew. Like yourselves, I mean, you all are very familiar with the Facebooks, and is any of you here, do any of you blog? How many of you are bloggers here? No? No writers? Okay. So I introduced him to blogging. Any of you video bloggers? You do YouTube videos? No? Okay, there's some people. Okay, good. Excellent. So we introduced this one guy, thank you, to those kind of skill sets. And eventually what happened was he started sharing his story, and his story became what I would call a change agent in the community. Because and this guy that I had, the first person that I was working with, he was the first drug dealer in the community. I mean, so he was a bad guy, right? But I wanted to help him to share a story of hope, to share a good story. So with that, the thing about change was very important. The other thing that we did was we really focused around how do we get people in our communities to start having hope. And the way we did that was we realized that a lot of people in the community where I grew up in never had any access to learning opportunities. No one in my family have completed school. Not a single person. I'm still the only one to have completed school. I'm not talking about graduating at university, I'm talking about school, high school. So for me it was, how do we get more people the opportunity to learn, right? And how are we able to use technology that will enable them to learn? So that was the first thing that I began to realize. And it all started with one person. After a while, we had a number of other guys and girls that joined. And when I'll never forget when I asked them, what do they know about computers? Do you know what their response was? The one guy put up his hand and he said, Marlon, the only thing I know about computers is how to steal a computer, right? Now that wasn't very comforting for me because I was borrowing other people's computers to do the training because I didn't have a computer lab. I was doing it out of the community in a little room in the community center. Then I tried to change the topic and I said, have anybody ever heard of Windows? And he said, Marlon, yes, man. Windows is what we break into to steal those computers. So I really started with people that had no clue about technology. But I believe that if I can get them to learn about technology and they can use social media to share their stories, maybe something will happen. I didn't know what will happen, but I believe deep down inside something will happen. So before I knew it, we had a lot of people coming, mothers coming, and we started a Geeky Moms program. Then we had young kids that came. We started a DigiKids program. And then we had a program called the SMS program, Senior Mobile Sessions, where the elderly wanted to learn how to use their mobile phones. So we had some of our elderly that was blogging. They were on Facebook. Our oldest graduate was 92 years old, right? And I remember, I'll never forget when we introduced her to Google. And she was Googling a recipe, how to make a pie, an apple pie. And when she saw the recipe, she got up. Now, the one thing that I've learned, especially in Africa, you never, ever argue with a 92-year-old granny, okay? And then she got up and she said, wait a minute. When she saw the recipe, she said, the internet is wrong. Because that is not how you make apple pie. And that is how we introduced her to blogging. It's fascinating because she was also invited by Google to be a guest speaker on how she uses Google applications. Right? So we had a whole range of people from the community that was now learning technology, from young children right up to the elderly. And they were all using it to share stories of hope. And that is how our lab started. But then eventually we realized that at the heart of what we do, it's about transforming communities. We wanted to see the change in communities, and we wanted to use technology and innovation to do that. That was very important for us. So in 2009, we then set up R Labs as a non-profit in Cape Town, and then things began to change for us. We then decided that there are 3 key things that we will do as an organization. And I'm just going to quickly run through these 3 things for you. The first thing we realized, and okay, before I show you the first thing, that's just a picture of some of my team. Well, that's some of them. We actually have about 109 people that we employ. And our average age in our organization is 21. So that's the average age. Most people in our organization is 18, 19, and 20 years old. So the first thing that we do is we actually do a lot of training and development. So we wanted to give people an opportunity to learn. So we run an academy, and part of the academy is to give people access to free training. And the way they get selected is they have to apply, and they basically try and apply for a scholarship. And there's only 2 criteria for the scholarship, conditions at least. The first condition is whenever they come into our academy, they always have to smile. Smiling is non-negotiable. If they don't smile, they can lose their scholarship. So you have people, even if they have to fake a smile, they have to, you know? But after a while, even if you don't know why you're smiling, it becomes contagious. People then keep on smiling. The second condition was that whatever they learn, they have to promise us they're going to use it to make a difference. That was it. So that was really how the whole thing started. We wanted to equip people, so we provided them free education through our training and development. And just to give you an idea, we've now trained over 30,000 people in 7 years. It started with one person, and 7 years later, it's over 30,000. And we're hoping to reach about 100,000 in the next 5 years, right? The second thing, and I'll quickly run through this, is what we call the Community Living Lab. Now that means we created spaces, I don't know if you can see this colorful space on the screen, where young people can go to and people from the community can go to, and they can actually create their own. You know, a lot of people have ideas. How many of you have ever had a good idea? How many of you have ever had a good idea? Raise your hand, that's fine. Okay. How many of you have ever had a good idea and you did nothing about it? Or even worse, how many of you have ever had a good idea and then a couple of weeks later, someone else had your idea? And then you said, but that was my idea. Has that ever happened to you? Okay, I'm glad it happened to you. Oh, excellent. So we realize that a lot of people have ideas, but they don't know how to turn their ideas into reality. So all we did, we created a very vibrant space where people can come and build new technologies, they can build new systems, if they want to, whatever their crazy idea might be. Some people are doing things around growing crops, doing agriculture with fish, so it's a lot of crazy ideas. And all we wanted to do, we wanted to create an environment where people can innovate, where people can be creative. And I don't know if you can see, this space over here is what we call a youth cafe. It's a place where young people go to. They can have some good coffee, some tea, some juices, fresh sandwiches. But at the same time, they can also access a lot of specialized training. Sometimes we do training around robotics, coding, sometimes it's around entrepreneurship. And at the heart of this thing is, this idea was developed by young people in the community. They wanted a space where they can access free internet, can connect with other young people, but at the same time where they can actually learn. The only thing about this cafe is you can't use cash in the cafe. So we don't accept any money. That was the one condition. And what we do now, we've actually developed our own currency. A currency that you can only earn the currency by doing good in your community. So if you decide that you're going to volunteer at a school, or you're going to volunteer at the NGO, or you're going to clean up your local community, then you can earn currency. And in the last 10 months since running this project, we've seen more than 40,000 acts of kindness done by young people in 10 months. And the community where we launched this is known as the crime capital of South Africa. So in the worst of places, we've actually seen thousands of young people making a difference, even though they have very little. And that is why I believe that each and every one of you can make a big difference in your community. So that's the second thing. Another thing, quickly, is we also build new technologies. How many of you use Snapchat or WhatsApp? Anybody? Or how many of you use messengers? All of you. What do you use? WhatsApp? No, nobody uses WhatsApp. WhatsApp is like very popular back in South Africa. Do you all use Snapchat? What do you use? You use Snapchat. So is it Snapchat? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Because I couldn't understand the concept. Like you snap and then you chat, or right? It just didn't make any sense to me. That's why I don't use it. Now I use WhatsApp because WhatsApp is a very popular term where I come from. Whenever you would see someone, you say, "Hey, what's up?" And so WhatsApp became a natural transgression thing for us to do. So one of the things that we did, we actually built a platform that allows people to access counseling services. You know counseling? If you want to speak to a counselor, or perhaps you want to speak to someone about career guidance, that you can chat to someone anonymously via your messaging app. So be it WhatsApp, we don't have Snapchat in there, There was an old technology called BBM. I don't think you know what that is. The traditional BlackBerry. Google Chat. And what we did, we allowed people to actually access support from professional counselors. And we built that technology right there in our community. Not in Silicon Valley. We built it in a very difficult community where the innovators and the co-creators were ex-gang members, ex-drug dealers, housewives, the homeless. That was our R&D, our research and development team. And since doing that, we've serviced more than 5 million people through that technology. Something that we built at a very local level has now been used not just in South Africa, but also in 37 other countries. And that was a product that we created out of solving a real need in the community. Now I wonder, if I have to quickly ask you this question, how many of you believe there is a need or a problem in a community that you know of? Can you raise your hand if you know of a problem? Or, okay, only 2 problems. I need to move to Waco. There's only 2 problems in Waco. That's amazing. Okay, so only 2 problems. So everything else is perfect. I love that. Wow. That's incredible. I'm clearly in the wrong place. Now, because that is normally an opportunity for you, because that's what we've learned, right? Now, another thing, and I'm coming to a close, don't worry, for those that's falling asleep already. The third thing that we do is we also realize that there's an opportunity to build businesses. So not only are we training people, not only are we creating an environment where people can innovate and come up with crazy ideas, we also help people to build businesses out of the community. And since doing this, we've launched 27 technology startups, so 27 technology companies. We sold 4 of the companies, and we supported about 408 small businesses. And this all out of the community. Now with all of these things, the one thing that I've learned is that the best people that understand the challenges in the community are the people who live there. Every single person has an opportunity to make a difference. Each and every one of you have an opportunity to make a difference. And that is what we were trying to encourage people in the community to do. And not only are we doing all of these things, we're in the business of making hope contagious. That's what we want to do. Hope is our business. We want to make hope contagious. So we've now expanded. We're not only in Cape Town, South Africa, we're now also operating in 22 countries. So in 7 years, it's gone from one 8-year-old boy who was looking for a job, inspiring the most unlikely candidate who grew up in a single-parent home, fatherless, living in poverty, with a family situation that was broken. And that allowed us to turn a small idea in making a difference in one life and touching millions of people in 22 countries. So the one thing that I want to leave with you is that if I could be used to do this, and I'm really not that great, seriously, then I'm pretty sure that each and every one of you have an opportunity to change the world. And I want to encourage you that if you're going to change the world, start with one person's world. Change one person's world. And it doesn't matter how small that act of kindness might be. Because the one lesson that I've learned is that you never know the impact that one small act of kindness can have on the world. Because that one act of kindness towards me changed my world. And it allowed me to do that for other people as well. So Art Labs is built by a big team of people. In Cape Town, we have a huge team. But even in the early days, it was the community who were the driving force behind Art Labs. So Art Labs was actually built by the community. The only thing that I can do is I was just the one that said, okay, that took the first step, basically. But everybody else then did all the other work. If you want to know what my job title is today, my job title today is I'm not the CEO. My job title is Dreamer and Explorer. So that's what I do. I just dream and explore. You can try and figure out what that means. But yeah, but it is about having people with you to do that. And that's very important. You don't have to do it alone, but you can be the one that can start it. It actually, R stands for reconstructed. So R Labs means reconstructed living lab. So our goal is to reconstruct communities. And our tagline is a social revolution. Because we believe you have to be radical in bringing about change. How many of you have ever felt like giving up? Okay. Thank you for your honesty. Now, and sometimes giving up seems to be the logical thing to do, am I right? Now, the one thing that I've learned is that even when it is the logical thing to do, don't give up. Even when logic tells you everything is packed up to tell you that you have to give up, it's not going to work, don't give up. And there was many times when I felt that way. I remember the time when I decided to leave the university and do R Labs full-time. I had to stop earning a salary and I became unemployed because I don't earn a salary at R Labs. It became my life. That was very difficult. And during that time, I felt like maybe, why am I doing all of this? Why can't I just go back and work for a company while things are difficult at home? I felt like giving up. And logic told me, why don't I give up? So I decided to go against logic. And sometimes we need people to go against logic sometimes, especially when it comes to, so you have to persevere. So yes, there was many times. It wasn't all rosy and perfect. Trying to understand what does it mean by reconstructing the community. It actually starts by reconstructing one person who then gets into the habit of doing the same for others. That's how you bring about change. And it does, the mindset plays a huge role, especially when you feel that, but why I don't qualify to do this, or when everything else tells you that you're going to fail, or everything else tells you that you're never going to achieve this. It's about how do we begin to change that. I'm a firm believer that greatness is in each and every one of you. You all believe that, right? Come on, that was, you all believe there's greatness inside of you. Okay, there we go. That's very primitive, but that's good. But the key thing about greatness is not good enough if it's just within you. You have to ignite greatness in people around you. That is what greatness is all about. So coming back to your question, it's important to know that is where you start. You start with those that has given up, and you start journeying with them. It's not going to be easy. Don't take me wrong. It's not going to be easy, but it's definitely doable. The reality is that you still have 1 out of 4 people in Waco that are struggling, that's not finding it easy. Now, yes, things might go very well with you, but that one could potentially eventually become 2 out of every 4 people. And if you don't do anything about it, it's going to affect the majority of your community. And there is something that you can do. As young as you are, you have the opportunity. It's probably the best person to do something about it. And I would always encourage you to start just with one person. You don't have to change everything. Just help one person to get through and journey with him. But it's definitely doable, but it won't be as easy as many people would think it is. But it's doable. How does it feel to be a catalyst for a movement like this? I'm very humbled. For me, I don't see me doing, this is not what I did. So I can't take credit for anything. That is why I'm not even on the board of directors of our organization. I've got no formal title. I can't sign any checks. My seat, I don't even have an office. I sit with the most junior of team. I sit with the interns. And I'm the one that serves them coffee and tea. That's my job. And I dream and I explore. So for me, it's very humbling to have at least have been able to play a role in it. And for me, I think the most rewarding thing is to see people like Angelo and Suzanne who you saw in the video clip earlier, seeing how their lives have transformed. If I have to do everything all over again, invest all the money that we've invested all over again, and it just makes a difference in one life, I will do it all over again. Because you cannot put a value on someone's life. If I have to ask you, how much do you think you are worth? What would your response be? How much are you worth? You have an answer? You are priceless. Exactly. You are priceless. So now I'll ask you the same question. So how much do you think is that person worth, that 1 out of 4 persons worth, the person that's going to bed hungry, the person that's struggling, how much do you think they are worth? They are priceless. So we have a moral obligation to do something about it. So the question is, where is my brother? He was released from prison just over a year ago. Unfortunately, he's not part of Art Labs, but he hasn't gone back. He's not on drugs anymore. He's left the gang. He's got 2 children that I simply adore. They're like my own kids. The other interesting thing, maybe just on that, because let me close the story for you quickly. My mother has decided this year to go back to school. And she fell in love again and she got married. How cool is that, right? And just on a sadder note, eventually, remember I told you that I grew up without my father, and it was after many years when I graduated, I wanted to invite him to my graduation. I don't know if you know what a public telephone is. That might be a bit. You know what a public telephone is? Do you have? I don't know. Yes, okay. I remembered finding him, getting his number, and making a call, standing in the rain. It was raining that day. The rain was pouring. And as I called him, I wanted to invite him to come to my graduation. I've never seen him. I've not spoken to him either for 20 years. And I remember him eventually coming to the phone. And I told him, well, my name is Marlon. He wanted to know who's Marlon. I said, well, it's your son. And I told him, of course. And then his response was this. He said, I told your mother that you're a mistake. And he put the phone down. And it's fascinating because I had to learn to forgive. And many times we go through things, we have things in our past, but it's important for us to forgive, especially if we want to move forward. And it was through forgiving and learning to walk in forgiveness. And when I started to work with Art Labs and they got some media attention, that he actually got hold of me. And he called me back to apologize. So I actually kind of made amends with him, and I told him, he's got nothing to ask. Forgiveness was fine. I'm okay. So we've kind of reconciled. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I want to just say, I would just want to leave you with this one thought. I want to say thank you very much for your patience and your time. But, and I also want to encourage you, go and be the best that you can be, because the world needs you. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Yeah. Ahoo. Is it ahoo? Huh? Woo. Yeah. Thank you so much.